Hey friends, today we are on our second short little permaculture video as we make our way through winter and prepare for spring. So like our last video, it's just gonna be a short chat about what I've been learning and how I'm preparing for when we go back to Westcliff and hopefully get our garden bed started. Today's topic: what seeds and saplings am I buying over the winter as we prepare to head back and plant in the spring? The first is the orchard saplings, so we're going to be talking trees. The second will be what we're planting in the garden beds that have yet to be built. So let's dive right in. First topic is our orchard saplings. So I'm going to take a look here at my laptop, and I'll be putting some pictures on screen so you guys know what they look like when they reach maturity. When I'll be getting them, they will be very, very young so that they have a better chance of establishing themselves better on the property. So what we'll be getting this year is a really wonderful assortment of trees that will thrive in cold temperatures and at higher elevation. So when I originally put in this order many months ago for a spring delivery, I thought that we were in a 5A growing zone. Yeah. As I learned more, again, the process of experimentation and learning is always happening, I found that because of our very high elevation, I really probably needed to buy plants and trees that were better suited for a 4, maybe even zone 3, because of the wind, because of the elevation, because we're so exposed. Luckily, the people that I'm buying these trees from, Trees of Antiquity, were fantastic and understood that I needed to adjust my order, so I swapped out some varieties that I didn't actually think would make it when I planted them and bought hardier varieties that were going to thrive more in the cold environment that we have. So what we have coming up this spring, very excited, we have the Dolgo crab apple, 4 of those. We have 2 snow farmoose apples, 2 Cortland apples, 4 English Morello cherries, 2 Canada Red Select cherries or choke cherries, 4 Heritage Red Raspberries. I know those are more of a bramble, but I bought them from the same source, so I thought I would mention them here. We also have 1 Red Lake Currant plant. We have 4 Chandler blueberry bushes, 4 Elliott blueberry bushes, 2 early Laxton plum varieties, 2 Brook Gold plums, 1 Warren pear tree, 1 Kiefer pear tree. Again, not sure about the pronunciation of these, so feel free to let me know in the comments below. We have we have two Portman gooseberry varieties coming in, and we already have the 1 Bailey's Select Choke Cherry tree. So the choke cherries that I just mentioned and the Brook Gold plum were actually varieties that were planted in the fall that I got from the local nursery. So those are actually already in the ground. All of these other varieties that I just mentioned are on order, and because of the zone where I am and where I spoke with the owners and salespeople at Trees of Antiquity, they're gonna send them much later, probably the end of April or beginning of May is when I expect our shipment, which will be hopefully the perfect time to get them and immediately put them in the ground. As you can see, we're building quite the orchard here at a higher elevation, especially with colder temperatures. You're not looking at things like mangoes, lemons, papaya. Obviously, your tropical fruits aren't really going to make it. We need something that's hardy. Even stone fruits are actually hard to do at a higher elevation from what I've been reading. So I'm going to start with what I think is most likely to survive. Your apples, your cherries, some pears, even those, you know, kind of not 100% certain on. But again, this is how we learn. This is how we experiment, right? In Sepp Holzer's book on permaculture, most of what he's tried were experiments, and what works he keeps going with, and what doesn't he takes off back to the drawing board. So let's talk garden beds. I have some ideas planned. I'm thinking we're gonna have 4 to 6 raised garden beds that will be next to where we're building the house. They'll be very close to the RV, so as we get started, it'll be easy to tend to them, and then once we've moved into our home, they'll essentially act as like a kitchen garden. So going out there to grab things as we're making meals, and very close when it comes to tending and taking care of them. Now, a permaculture garden shouldn't require too much maintenance over time, but it means you have to put in a lot of effort at first to really get the soil going and things like that. I'm going to be starting with raised garden beds because we haven't had a chance to really mitigate the soil quality around us. I think it actually is a very good quality based on the soil tests that I've had. It is slightly nitrogen deficient, and really it's compacted and there's a lot of rocks. But other than that, once it's broken up and over a couple of years of getting some of these ground cover plants in, I think I'll be able to plant more things throughout the property. But for now, especially since I'm a novice, I want to start with a much smaller area. I'm going to talk to you guys about what I have in mind and divide them into 3 categories. The first will be herbs, the second's going to be what I'm calling the tea garden, and the third will be vegetables. We already talked about the fruits that will be in the orchard. So I'm very interested in growing herbs because I would like to make more medicinal teas and tinctures as I go forward. It's something I'm really interested in and never had the time or resources or space to do. So I'm hoping that by planting these herbs, I will be forced to do it. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking for the herb garden. And this is based off of what I've seen grows at higher elevations and with potential dangers of colder weather. But again, I have no idea. No one's really grown anything around me outside of a greenhouse, so this is just all an experiment. But we're gonna look at bee balm, chickweed, holy basil, stinging nettle, witch hazel, and valerian. So those will be the herbs. So that will take up maybe a garden bed, depending on what size it is. I'm thinking 4 to 6 feet, maybe smaller for the herb garden, just to have something more contained. And then we're gonna get a garden bed specifically for the tea garden. So I'm an avid garden drinker. I'm an avid tea drinker. Brian drinks tea a lot as well. I would love to be able to drink tea that I can say that I grew and made myself. That's gonna be a major bucket list item, guys. So if you see and sense my excitement, that is why. So here's what I'm thinking for the tea garden. Again, these are varieties that I've read about in books about planting your own tea garden that are up to zone 2. So I'm hoping they'll work, but we really won't find out until I plant them and see what happens. So we're looking at echinacea, chamomile, lemon balm, sage, St. John's wort, calendula, and wild mountain rose. That one I'm especially iffy on. We've never really planted roses or types of roses before, but I think these would all make excellent teas. So we'll see what happens. And finally, you've got our vegetable beds. This is going to take up the majority of the vegetable garden bed space. And this is what I'm really excited about because in Florida, there were so many plants and vegetables that I wanted to try and grow, but Florida planting seasons mess with my brain. A lot of times you have to plant stuff in the winter there because it's more mild, but you also have to time it around the frost, and I just couldn't do it. So now that we're back in 4-season environment, Colorado, I think I can make it happen. We do have a very short growing season as well. I thought I would mention West Cliff supposedly has like a 90-day window for planting things without, or maybe with a greenhouse, I don't know. So I've chosen these varieties based on elevation, grow zone supposedly, and that very short growing window, especially since I'm not really gonna have space to start the seeds ahead of time. So again, huge experiment, let's see what happens. These are almost entirely all going to come from the local seed source that I found where I live. It's called Miss Penn's Mountain Seeds. Locals who grow their own crops, their own food, and they save their seeds and sell them each year. So I know they're likely to do well in my environment, which is awesome. If you didn't watch my last video about permaculture resources for things like that, definitely check that out up here. You'll see why I go in depth talking about finding a local source of knowledge and seeds. So without further ado, here are the varieties I'm gonna start with. This is gonna be like my first major garden initiative of my entire life, so no pressure, right? So we're looking at, and I'm gonna talk about the specific varieties as well. So we're looking at Aurora tomatoes, Upstate Abundance potatoes. This is the one variety I'm gonna get from row 7 seeds instead of Miss Penn's mountain seeds because she didn't have any potatoes. So I don't know if that means you can't grow potatoes or if it's just easier to find an all-around variety, who knows? She's also got a corn variety called Candy Mountain Sweet Corn, which has a very short growing season and doesn't grow as tall, which is great because we have such strong winds up in West Cliff. I'm very excited for that one because Brian loves to make popcorn, so super stoked for that. We've also got the Northern Bush Pumpkin to try. I am a pumpkin pie fanatic and love using pumpkins in soups, so that would be fantastic if we could get that. We have arugula, Bloomsdale Long-Standing Spinach, greens. We use them in smoothies and to make salads all the time. So if we could have them fresh, again, serious bucket list item knocked off the list. We also have something called a Kinko Chantonnay carrot, which sounds like some kind of aristocratic variety. I don't know. They were huge in this picture. If I can grow a huge carrot, why not? The dogs love to eat carrots. And finally, we're gonna try a Chicho broccoli. We're big fans of broccoli in this household, and I know they grow well in colder environments. So again, all I can say is these are all gonna be experiments. Let me know what you guys are trying this year. What are you planning? Are you starting seeds already? Put these conversations down in the comments below, and I will respond as you guys send them in. I'm really excited for this spring and hope you guys stick around as we have these short little permaculture chats going forward. Later.